So before I start, I would like to pay tribute to Asma, a fellow traveler, a champion of human rights, women's rights, a very close friend, who fearless, courageous, and who upheld her principles under all conditions. And I also would like to thank the organizers for this panel and for inviting me. We've heard enough of and a lot of information exists about the scale of this havoc. And there was a precursor in 2010 and 11. 2010 का जो था, it was a riverine flood, but 2011 का जो सिंध में फ्लड था, वो बारिशों की ही वजह से था. उसमें हमने बहुत सारी चीज़ें देखी जो कि हमें जो कि फॉल्ट लाइंस आइडेंटिफाई की थी, जो कि हमें तैयारियों के लिए ज़रूरी है. दो चीज़ें जो उसमें थी और जो कि हम इस फ्लड में भी हमारे सामने आई हैं, वो यही हैं कि कुछ लोग ऐसे होते हैं जो कि रह जाते हैं जब फ्लड की रिलीफ होती है या रिहैबिलिटेशन होती है. So I think what we've learned, and I think again we've seen in this flood also, that there are those who are left behind. And we find that those are the people, the ones who are left behind are the ones who are vulnerable already. They have pre-existing vulnerabilities which get heightened and exacerbated during such catastrophes. We've seen, for instance, in the areas which have been affected by flood, the 16% of the population was already food insecure. And we also saw that 10% of the households from the previous flood of 2011 have not come out of absolute poverty. They did not succeed in coming out of absolute poverty. So unless we look at ameliorating the pre-existing conditions, we will continue to have people who are devastated by these floods, by these calamities. We already know that 33 million people are displaced, but within these left out people on the margins, the Haris, the landless, the daily wagers, the women who are left behind are the ones that really get no attention. And in this particular flood of 2022, 57% of the fatalities were of women and children. 57% were of the children, and then we find that there are the most vulnerable are pregnant women, which also reflects upon the lack of family planning, population welfare facilities to women, because most of these are undernourished or malnourished and bad health. So these women, of these 650,000 pregnant women, 130,000 are at risk. That is, they are due to deliver within the next 3 months. There is no antenatal facility. They will probably be delivering at home. Their homes are gone. And we don't see any, apparently now some attention is being given to it. But when we are looking at a flood or a devastation, I think we also have to look at what preparations we have done. And I think from the flood of 2010 and 11 to the floods of 2022, we find that preparedness was missing, has been missing. When we are talking about being prepared, there has to be an early warning system, and I'm not sure what early warning system exists in place. There have to be safe places for evacuation with backup of health and food, minimum food supplies. We don't see any signs of it. And while relief there's been response to the relief, we find the agencies responsible for responding mobilized with delay. It was the NGOs, the non-profit organizations who were linked to the grassroots, who came out first to come forward for relief, and उनके दायराकार बहुत लिमिटेड होते हैं. हर जो नॉन प्रॉफिट है उसका अपना दायराकार है, वो उस तक, और वहाँ पर लोग मुनज़्ज़म भी हैं, और जब तक लोग मुनज़्ज़म लोकल लेवल पे नहीं होते हैं तो आपकी रिलीफ जो है उन लोगों तक नहीं पहुंचती जिनको की ज़रूरत है. तो we find that again and again it's the not-for-profit, the NGOs who took the lead. The government has followed later. Army was called in and deployed as much as they could. All the helicopters were deployed, boats were deployed, but the ones who were left out somehow do remain left out. And I think there is no policy to look at that. When I was at the National Commission on the Status of Women, I carried out a gender analysis of existing sectoral national policies. The National Climate Change Policy recognizes that the impact of calamities, of environmental change can be very high on the marginal people, especially women. It also identified those groups, but we find that there is no action plan. The action plan is missing. And then the National Disaster Reconstruction Plan of 2019 does not include the gender perspective, the women's and the children's perspective at all. ये 2019 का है जब तक के हमारी कई calamities हो चुकी थी, उसमें हमें ये भी पता चल गया था, we all know कि we are not responsible for climate change, but we are impacted by it. But then how prepared are we for that? And I think that's where the missing link is. We've got institutions, we've got NDMA, we've got provincial district management authority. Yesterday we were told there is another fund that is for risk management, but we do not find their presence and response and action plans. Their budgets are very limited, resource allocation is not available. So I think इस वक्त जो लम्हा फ़क्रिया है हमारे पास ये है कि इंस्टीट्यूशंस पे इंस्टीट्यूशंस बना दें, लेकिन लोगों की जो ज़रूरत है उस वक्त की वो पूरी नहीं होती. And I would like to end, because I think we only have 10 minutes, what I would like to end with or close with is that we need to recognize, and again it's been proven that the not-for-profits, the NGOs are the ones who reach out, but the current atmosphere environment for NGOs is very tight. उनके लिए स्पेस ही नहीं है काम करने की, उनको एक शक की नज़र से देखा जाता है, उनके काम को भी शक की नज़र से देखा जाता है, जबकि again and again we find that they deliver and they need to be included in the planning that is to be done for preparing for the next calamity. We are going to have more and more calamities until the global climate change process is not stopped or at least brought to some sort of a rational level. And in that I feel that their inputs need to be included. अगर कोई गलत काम कर रहा है तो हमारे यहाँ कानून बहुत है उनको रोकने के लिए, लेकिन जो अच्छा काम कर रहा है उनको हम कैसे शामिल करें, that should be our objective. And lastly I would say something that the Justice Sahab has said जो कि दिल को लगी थी, and this is one of the things that I've been campaigning for, is that food security is our highest priority. Women's role in that food security is something that is totally ignored. And how do we, for a long term, unless we create that equality between our citizens, the dignity and respect that women need, their capacity building to deal with disasters, all that is not part of any of the policies that we have discussed. And I analyzed. We analyzed 6 policies, except for the health policy, and that includes women, but it's not integrated with the other policies. So, as somebody yesterday said, we need integrated policies, and we need local government. Local government is your first port of responding, and we are devoid of those. So these are some of the issues that one needs to address if we want to be ready for the climate change impact, which is going to increase. It's not going to reduce.
Thank you so much.